I remember my mom and I would fight. We had like crazy fights where we would like yell at each other and we would get at each other's faces and we would be like pointing at each other like this, like literally get at each other's faces. She would slap me. I would like just talk back. My dad would try to interfere because we are at each other. Like we were gonna like pull at each other's hair basically.
We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers, stronger than ever. Never say never. Don't look back now. Don't look back now.
Oh, I also have one more thing about Meg, just to add. So Meg and I used to be enemies. Or
Finding our place and running the race. We'll take our chance and seize the moment. Hold on tight and don't let go of all your hopes and dreams that light the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap!
We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of All Abroad Podcast. And today we're going to talk to you about our experiences coming to America. So I'm your host for today. My name is Sweetie.
And I'm Kat.
and Joy.
Meg. So today we're going to discuss our experiences coming to America. And we all came to America in like different time frames of our lives. But I think I'm probably one of the earliest ones. Well, I think one of the earliest one that came to America. And today we're going to talk about the challenges that we faced just going through the process of coming to America. It's not easy to get your papers right, to get your visa, to get approved, to get your green card, and then on your way to getting interviewed at the U.S. Embassy. All of that is a process. And especially for me and my family, it took about 4 years for my parents to get my paperwork, my younger sister's paperwork to get approved in order for us to join my mom and my dad here in America. So for about 4 years of my teenage lifetime, my parents were away here in the United States, and my sister and I were left back home as we were waiting for our paperwork to get approved. And so before I go through my entire story, because I don't really know, I mean, I've been friends with Kat and Joy and Meg for over 30 years, but I don't actually know the story of, the process of how they came to America. So I'm going to start with Kat. You want to tell us about, your story and the background of how you came to America?
So basically, my parents already had moved here when I was 7 years old. And unfortunately, they actually moved out here and they were, their papers weren't fixed. So when I got here, I was under a tourist visa. That was the visa that I could get to get here. So I was on a tourist visa. And then when you enter into the United States, usually what do you call that? The port of entry, what they call that. Yeah, the port of entry. When you enter, they kind of make a decision. Are you allowed here for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, right? 4 months. The maximum amount of time that you're allowed is 6 months. And thankfully, I was given 6 months to stay. So for those 6 months, I moved out here with a decision to pursue a dance career. And so for those 6 months, I went from New York to LA and just basically went to different like dance schools to try to figure out if there's a school that could sponsor me to stay here. And unfortunately, there isn't really a dance school that would be able to sponsor me. In fact, I made it to this amazing prestigious school. It's called Alvin Ailey School of Dance. It's an amazing school in New York. You have to audition to get into that school. Even if you're a paying student, you still have to audition. So I auditioned and actually made it in. But because I'm international, the tuition for international students was significantly higher than the tuition for American citizen students. So there was just so many challenges. And then I went to LA. I auditioned for another school. I finally made it. And this one was just like, oh yeah, we'll give you a scholarship. And this was a 1-year program. So 6 months into the program, well, more like kind of like 4 months into the program, because the first 2 months I was still searching for the school, right? So I started the school, and then 4 months into the program, I needed to leave because my visa expired. So I had this choice of, well, do I leave and go back to the Philippines and try to figure out how to come back here again? Or do I just say, forget it, I'm just going to overstay and be illegal? And I decided to overstay and become illegal.
Oh, well, there's statute. What is it called? The statute of, when you don't have enough, when you're telling on yourself like that, but then it's already past the statute of limitations.
Oh, yes. Yep. So yeah, that was me. That was, I was illegal for a while, and it was really difficult. When you're illegal, you don't have, what's that?
Undocumented.
Oh,
Not
correct. You're undocumented.
Not illegal. That's what we called it back home, like.
Oh yeah, that's what we called it back home. Here in the States, it's a little bit more finesse of a term when you say undocumented.
Politically correct.
Correct.
Well,
I'm used to the way we talk in the Philippines, which is just illegal.
Well, we have another term for that. What
TNT, tago ng tago, hide and hide.
Or in hiding.
Yeah, pretty much in hiding. So that's me.
How old were you, Kat, when you came here with a tourist visa?
I was 21. So I had just graduated college, and then I moved out here right away as soon as I graduated college.
So how long were you in hiding? How long were you undocumented?
2004 was when I got here. I was in hiding until 2006.
Wow.
Documented until 2006.
So we're going to continue your story in a little bit of how you transitioned into being documented. What about you, Meg? What's your story?
Well, my mom petitioned me, and it took I just remember that it took a long time, and she had to go with the INS back then, not the Department of Homeland Security, whatever. And they found out.
What's INS?
Immigration and Naturalization
Services.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. And so she followed up with the INS, and it took my petition filed for quite a long time than expected, because apparently they found out that my petition file was, they couldn't find it. And it's like filed somewhere in a warehouse or something. And so they couldn't find it. So my petition took a while. Eventually, more than, let's say, a year or two, my petition finally was ready. And so it was like right timing with it was like my third year in college, and I had to go through the bureaucratic process of those paperworks. I had to go to the NBI in Manila, had to go there, and then the U.S. Embassy. You had to get your physical exam taken. So it was more of like going all through paperworks. And then eventually when I got here, you had to because usually when it's a tourist and other travelers, you get to go in right away. But when you just arrive here, you had to take a while and wait. And it's just all, that bureaucratic process.
So when you said it took a while, what was the time frame?
I'm not sure, but it usually would take 5 years. Mine took let's say 8 to 10 years.
Wow. So your mom started petitioning you when you were still in high school or something? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Yes.
And you finally got here after college?
After college, yeah.
Wow. Okay. What about you? Yeah. What about you, Joy? What's your story?
For me, it's kind of the same. My parents sponsored me. I just made it off the age cutoff, which is 21. No, actually, I came here when I was 19. So in order for the petition to work, you have to be below 21. So I made that. And every year in high school, my parents would say, oh, you're going to come here soon. So soon for me, next year. But 4 years passed by, and then I graduated high school, and my parents were like, okay, you're really gonna come here very soon. So I went to college for a year, and after a year of college, my dad came to pick me up, and the process was kind of smooth, if I remember. I had to take medical examination. I had to go to Manila and then come back. Everything was good, and then my dad picked me up, and that was it. It was pretty smooth as far as I can remember. I don't remember any big challenges. It was just only when I got here and actually lived life and leave everything behind that was kind of hard for me, but that process wasn't that bad.
So for me, what made the process difficult, it was because my dad was already married to his ex-wife, and then when he got with my mother, as you know, in the Philippines you can't remarry. But when my sister and I were born, my mom put my dad's last name for our last name. So that made it really difficult because that wasn't supposed to be how, because my mom wasn't married to my dad, we weren't supposed to have my dad's last name. And I think if I'm right, in the Philippines, you can only have your dad's last name if they were married. As opposed to here in America, you can give your kids whatever last name you want to give your kid, as far as if it's your last name or your husband's last name. But back home, if you're not married, then you can't use your husband's last name. So that was the first hurdle, was that my parents had to fix the paperwork so that, I don't really even know, because when we're kids, we're not really privy to what our parents have to do. I just know that much, that they had to fix our paperwork because we had my dad's last name and we weren't supposed to. And then at some point, I remember that my mom and my dad had to prove, or maybe this was when my dad petitioned my mom. So they have to prove that they've been in a relationship for a long time. So I remember my mom having to gather all these greeting cards my dad ever sent to her, just to prove, as far as the dates go back, that they've been together for that long. And so my dad petitioned my mom first, and that took a while. And then my mom finally came to America, and then they had to, petition my sister and I. And that took a while because of the last name difficulties. And when we finally got to the process of getting interviewed and getting our physical exam and everything, I have a funny story, because my sister was only, I want to say 6, maybe 7, between 5 to 7 years old. So we got interviewed, and my sister's English is, of course, very basic. She's like 6 or 7 years old. So the interviewer at the embassy, and I don't know if he was American or Filipino, but my sister was under a few medications because she was deficient in vitamin D, I think. And so the interviewer was asking her question and asked her, so you're taking all these medications? And she's like, yes. And then after that, I'm like, how does she know what medication meant? She's only 5 or 6. So after the interview, I asked her, I'm like, her name's Nikki. I'm like, Nick, did you understand what that guy was saying when what was asking you when you said yes? Yeah. What did he say? Are you going on vacation? That's what he thought. That's what she thought. The interviewer asked her is, are you going on vacation? And I'm like, I'm glad the answer was correct. She said yes.
Yeah, oh
because
my.
I feel like one wrong answer in that interview, you will just, I don't know. I think the process will be more difficult when your answers aren't really matching up with the paperwork.
Correct. But they can't put a fault on a 5-year-old just for giving a wrong answer. Come on.
Right. And I know. And I remember I was only 13 or 14. And my parents asked our lawyer back home that was preparing our paperwork, I think they had an option to have me appear in court to make statements about my mom and dad. But I was so young that they put me on the stand. And then, sometimes these Filipino lawyers want to use big words for no reason. So he was using big words and I couldn't understand. And then they had to cut the hearing short. They're like, okay, she's too young, like we can't have her here. But I think the lawyer was saying something about before your mom went to America, but he said prior to your mom going to America. And I think at that point I didn't know what prior meant. But had he just said before, I would have understood what he meant, right? And so anyway, so that was another fail. So there's just a lot of different hurdles that we had to go through to actually finally make it to America. Yeah. And, English, that barrier, the barrier of language. And especially if just how young you are and just the amount of vocabulary that you're used to could really make a difference. Now that, all that things that we had to go through to come to America already passed, we're finally in America. What challenges do you remember you faced in that first year of being in America? Like, just think back. We might have to cut this pause of us thinking back, but like, just think about that first year. I know my first year here was 1999. I was on my way to going to high school. I didn't finish high school with my friends here. Like, I had one more year. I was in my third year of high school, but my parents decided to hurry up and take advantage of the timing and just move. And I begged them to let me stay and just come after high school. But they're like, no, that's not going to work. This is our chance. We have to take it. Looking back, I get it. But back then, like, all my friends is all that matters, because I spend so much of my time with friends, and that is my family. And so I just couldn't imagine what it would be like to not be with my friends, to graduate with my friends and all of that. So yeah, so I remember that first year was a struggle for me. So does anyone want to go first to talk about the struggles?
I can share. My biggest struggle was being with my mom and dad after, when they left when I was 7 years old. I was still such a kid. And then I grew into my high school years, into my college years. And by the time I moved to the States, 21 years old, I felt like a full grown adult, and, like at that point, us youngins were like, we know everything. We can tackle the world. We can do everything on our own. And I was definitely in that mentality of like, I can do life, and, moved to the States, and of course, like, I live with my mom and my dad, and it was so hard because we were butting heads. I wasn't allowed to date. I had a curfew. I wasn't allowed to do certain things, and it was just like, excuse me, I'm 21. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an adult. I graduated college. I could do life now. I could make these decisions myself. And so that was the biggest hurdle. Was I remember my mom and I would fight. We had like crazy fights where we would like yell at each other. We would get at each other's faces, and we would be like pointing at each other like this, like literally get at each other's faces. She would slap me. I would like just talk back. My dad would try to interfere because we are at each other. Like, we were gonna like pull at each other's hair, basically. It was bad. So that was my biggest challenge, was learning how to live with parents who still think you're a 7-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's totally understandable, because that's how they left you. They left you as a baby. Mm-hmm. So they're expecting you to come back and live with that. Well, not come back, but come and live with them, kind of like pick up where they left off. But yeah, that's not how it works, because you've grown.
Right.
They left, since they left the Philippines. Yeah, I totally get that. And I definitely have stories where I butt heads with my mother as well. And I know Joy does have those stories.
Of what?
Butting heads with your parents?
Did I? I don't remember. But my child, maybe it's part of my repressed
memories.
Yeah, maybe I did. But that's gotta be for the Valentine's event, but episode. Well, for me, I had a couple of challenges. One of them is, we grew up with maids, and we wake up in the morning, your breakfast is served and ready, and, all your laundry is done and all that. So I got here, everybody had to work. So you wake up and you have to fend for yourself. And cereal, this is all you eat. This is not even enough for me, So those are the challenges I had, minor, but then also communicating with other people and sometimes people would talk to me like in English, right? And they would speak very fast and like they expect you to laugh. I'm like, oh, okay. And you know what I mean? And they're like, it's supposed to be funny. You're supposed to be laughing, but I did not get anything that that person said from beginning to end. So I was just pretending all this time to kind of communicate with them. And it was hard for me to express myself and get myself understood, you know? So I ended up just being quiet and not like talking. So I was pretty much not myself most of the time. So because back in the Philippines, I would be like this funny joy and, you know, but my jokes does not transcend or translate into American culture. So well, I'm like, never mind. It doesn't, you know, so I'm just going to keep quiet. So I think that's part of my first years here, just kind of like,
So I have a follow-up question for you, Joy.
be nice.
So back in the Philippines, when we went to our private school, we did speak English. But what was it about the actual English that the people were speaking here that made it difficult for you to understand?
I don't know. It was just conversational and they talk so fast. And their slangs, you know, like I can't think of any slangs on top of my head right now, but there are slangs where I don't get. And oh, that's what she meant. I had to like ask people afterwards, oh shoot, I should have reacted this, I should have reacted that way. But you know, so those are the type of things that I got really insecure about, like having that conversation to strangers and there would someone come up to me and talk to me, I would just be so insecure. But in the Philippines, we talk English in school, so it's pretty basic, you know, but it's not like an everyday thing where you just wake up and you talk to people randomly and just have this conversation about the politics or about fashion or traveling. And I wasn't prepared to find these big words or understand their slangs or whatnot. So those are my...
That's totally understandable. The big difference between speaking English 24/7 and you don't have an option to say time out and speak our dialect when you can't express yourself in English. Yeah, I remember feeling that way too when I first moved here. What about you, Meg? What were some of the challenges you faced in the first year of you moving to America?
Kind of the same with Kat, that adjusting with your parents, living with your parents. I graduated already college, and I was like, you know, in that independent slash freedom 20s mode, and I was not used with having a mother smothering me. I was used like being free and going out, and I don't have anyone to like ask permission to. And like my mom that time was, you know, she wanted to make up for that lost time of being a mother. But I was like, it's time to like break free, but you have to adjust. On top of that, she was on her menopausal stage, which didn't like really help. And another thing on top of that, I just came out as well. So it was a really challenging time for me. The first year, we didn't really get along. We had like a lot of issues to deal with. So a lot of drama, actually.
I wonder, and I can't wait for when we have like Mother's Day. I really want all our moms to be a part of this. I already told my mom, Kat's face. Wait, let me put on a gallery view. What was that face you made, Kat? I told my mom already, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know." Like she's, you know, acting shy, Miss Catriona Gray. But I definitely hear all of you guys, and I had all of those challenges as well in my first year. I actually had a good time my first year because, as you know, I think the school year in the Philippines ends in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the school year in America does not start till September. So I had that big break from March to September when I'm not in school. So I was like having a blast to not have to go to school, even though I love school, don't get me wrong. But I was watching all the Disney channels. We don't have any of that back home. The Disney channels, Nickelodeons. My dad would take us to road trips. But then when I finally had to buckle down and go to school, the language barrier was definitely there. And just like Joy, I was quiet at first mostly because if someone speaks to me or if the teacher had a question and I actually had the answer, but like I had to like practice it in my head so that the English was correct once, I can't just raise my hand because once he calls on me, I'm not ready. Like I have the answer, but I kind of want to sound it out first to make sure that I have it right. So it's like a lot of that stuff still had to translate in my head. And I think at some point, I was shy and quiet because of the language thing. Like I understood them, but my response rate was just very slow.
Low.
Yeah, and because of wanting my English to sound perfect. But luckily, the school that I went to was actually like a melting pot. It was very diverse. We had people from everywhere, like Africa, from Somalia, from Iran, like it was a very diverse school. So eventually it didn't take long for me to get comfortable. But also the parental authority became apparent. Well, no pun intended on that word. But it's just having, parents again in the household where, they tell you what to do. Well, first of all, like I'm very responsible with my homework. So they never have issues with me in school. It's just that, I want to go to the mall or I want to go to different places. I want to do my own thing. I'm on my schedule. But now my mom is there to say, okay, time to wake up, do laundry. I'm like, but I don't feel like doing laundry. Like, so now you have someone ordering you around versus being kind of like the boss of your house and you have your help that you order around, so to say. So yeah, that was definitely difficult. So let's talk about maybe our first job experiences. I know Kat kind of already went through her little bit of her experience with like the dance school and all of that, but let's talk about maybe your first like paid job. Like what was that? And, was there anything interesting that you can share about your first paid job in the USA?
I have some funny stories. Well, the dance school was a scholarship program, so I wasn't like working there, but to support myself, because obviously, we all came here from the Philippines with the exchange rate is different. And so the value of our money over there is lesser than the value of the money here in the States. And so when I moved out here, I didn't really have much and my parents were supporting me, but I still had to like have my own, to like pay for like little things. Like my parents like made me pay for like my own phone bill and all the stuff just to really learn become responsible. So little things like that I still had to like make sure to save up for. And then also if I wanted to go out, that's like on me, right? So then a lot of my jobs were odd jobs. I worked retail. I worked I cleaned houses. I remember I cleaned the house and I think I shared this with Sweeney recently, but I basically cleaned the house and I bleached this kitchen floor, which was green. I bleached it white somehow. And this house was by Beverly Hills, and like I called my mom, like, Mom, can you please come here and like rescue me? So my mom came to the rescue and we fixed the kitchen floor before the owners got there. I remember, Joy, you gave me a job watching dogs and cats.
Yes.
What was the name? Burt Reynolds.
Katie.
Katie was Burt Reynolds' girlfriend. Girlfriend, right? So Katie was Burt Reynolds' girlfriend. And so she's got 2 dogs and 2 cats, I believe, and the dog has a pacemaker and it's like weak, and so I have to walk this dog up in the hills of Beverly Hills, and then like at one point this dog literally, like, imagine a dog on all fours and just literally tipped over and fell and like fainted, and I was like, oh my god, not on my watch. So this dog completely fainted. I had to carry this dog back up to the house and like somehow resuscitate this dog. Thank God the dog was okay. But then at that time, I really, really, really hated cats. I really cannot stand cats at that time. Now I have 3 and I love them. One's in the background right now. But when you pet sit for them, the pet sitter has their own kind of like quarter, like a maid's quarter kind of feel, and apparently the dogs and the cats sleep with you. And I was like, excuse me? Like, I don't sleep with no dogs. I don't sleep with no cats. Like, I was so against that at that time. And now it's crazy because it's like, oh, my cat is on the table with me, eating with me, you know? So this cat wanted to sleep, and I was terrified of cats. This cat wanted to sleep with me. So I would keep putting him down on the floor, but then he would keep going up on the what do you call that, the bed, keep putting him down on the floor, put him back in the bed. And at some point this cat like stared at me and was just like like this. And this cat bolted from the corner of the room and like ran towards my feet, and I like yelped and I was like, ah. And this was like 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I was supposed to be already asleep, but I couldn't sleep because I was fighting with this cat in the room, and the dogs too. Because I was like, I can't sleep with this dog next to me. What is this? You know, I never do this. And so I put the cat outside. Joy, they were like, I think they were out of town at that time. I put the cat outside. I was like, bye. I'm not gonna let you in. This cat scratched on the door like crazy and did not stop. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. So this was at this point, I think it was like 3:30 in the morning. I finally let the cat inside. I texted the housekeeper and I was like, I'm feeling
I don't feel good.
I
remember.
I have to go home. So I went home. I left. I was like, I can't do this no more.
I remember that. Oh my god.
It was really bad. I just couldn't. Oh my god, just that, right? And then like one last story, because this was really crazy. I booked my first commercial. It was a Pepsi commercial, and I didn't have papers, but I booked the commercial. I auditioned for it. I booked the commercial, and then I went to this was filming at the back lot of Universal Studios, and I told my agent, I was like, hey, actually don't have papers to do this job. And they were like, you need to leave now. You need to leave now. Like, don't do that job, because if production like finds out you have nothing, like the production company, they would probably get in trouble, and then the agency would get in trouble. I would get in trouble, all that stuff. But I was like, it's my first commercial. I don't want to not do this job. So I went in there and my heart was like beating, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so, you know, like you have to fill out paperwork and you have to present like your, what do you call that? Your social security or your password, like passport, basically like proof that you are legal here. And I filled in the paperwork and they asked for it, and I said, oh shoot, I forgot it. And they were like, it's okay, just bring it back tomorrow, because it was a 2-day shoot. And I was like, oof, I got through that one day. I got through one day. So then I worked that job, and then the next day same thing. I was like, please, God, please, just let me through this time. And the person that was in the front that was checking us in was a different person. So he thought that I had already filled out the paperwork the day before. So I got through. It was crazy. So I worked a commercial and it was really fun. That was my story. Those are my stories with my first jobs. I'm sure I have more funny stories that I can't probably remember.
So I was in Seattle while all of you guys were here in California, and I heard about you booking the Pepsi commercial. And I think at some point you shared that, or someone shared the link with me, because I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Kat was in a Pepsi commercial. But I had no idea that was what the story was behind that. And that was your first commercial. So anyway, what was the outcome of that? Like, so you did the commercial, you skated through it, you were fine without papers. Did you get paid? Like, did any like complications arise out of that?
No. So back in the day when the US wasn't so strict, anyone can get a social security number. Like anyone. Like you can basically get it just says on your social security card, not valid for employment, but you do have a social security number, which you can use for employment as long as you don't show them the card. So I was able to put in my social and everything when I filled out the paperwork, but I was just not able to show them my proof, right? So I don't have a US passport. I don't have a social security card that says that valid for employment. So I skated through that, but I got paid because I had a social, you know? So So there were really no implications. And then from that point on, I realized I'm like, you can do this. So I would book jobs and I would just like put my social security and I would just try to like somehow just skate through every single, hey, do you have your passport to put on here?
I just want to say, just for the disclaimer part, we do not recommend you trying this at home. Okay, we need you to do the proper paperwork. We're simply sharing the experiences we had, but in no means we're encouraging anything.
Exactly. Don't do what I did, guys. Just don't. But I think what it was for me is like, there was no other, I don't have any plan B. Like, I'm not going back to the Philippines. I wanted to be here. I wanted to become a dancer. I wanted to do this career. Like, I didn't have any plan B. Like, for me, plan B was going back there and then completely being unhappy. So I was like, no, I'm doing this.
Man, I don't know if I can top that story. Does anyone else have any like first job stories that you want to share?
I do. It's my first gig. It was not paid. At first, my mom was really pushing for local experience before finding a job. So I tried out internships and I tried internships. The first internship gig that I experienced was being a PA in a production company. My first day was they told me that I'd be helping out in the production, but in the end, they put me in like the gate, and they gave me a remote, and they told me to open and close the gate of this production place, and I was like, no, I put all of my hard work and blood and tears on my thesis and my college degree just to open and close the gate. I'm like, hell no, I'm not putting up with this. So I escaped that internship. That afternoon, I'm like, I called my stepdad, Pa, can you pick me up? Because I'm not gonna close the gate. So, and then the next, I think it was the afternoon, the guy that worked in that production company called me asking, do you know where the gate opener is? Because we couldn't find it. Like, I don't know. I don't want to go back anymore. So that was like crazy.
Close open.
Did you take the gate opener with you?
No, I probably left it there.
You probably smashed it on the ground.
Yeah.
What about you, Joy? Any first job?
Man, I don't have any funny stories. I wish Pao was here because she had a very funny first job that I was a part of, but it was primarily her job. But well, for me, my first paid job is in the medical field. It's like my caregiving job that my mom gave me, and then I was a nursing assistant for 6 months and I took care of maybe 19 patients. So for me, that was a lot, and I was new here. I didn't know what to do, and I have to like give them a bath from head to toe, and I almost killed a patient because if they have like a feeding tube that goes from their nose to their stomach, you cannot lay them flat while the feeding is ongoing, because if you lay them flat to change them, it's going to go to their lungs. They're going to aspirate. So I was like, okay, this patient had a feeding tube, so I had to lay her flat because I have to change her because she pooped, right? I have to wipe her butt. And then she started vomiting. So I didn't know what to do. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to kill this person? And then someone came in to help me. So at that point, I was like, that was a big lesson for me. So they told me not to do that because, it could go back to the lungs and they could die. So that was a scary moment for me. Nothing funny, but life changing. I was like, I just need to be here 6 months for my resume and then I'm out. So that was it.
But look at you now, girl. What was my first job was actually babysitting for a church. There was I don't know how I found the application somewhere, but it was like the child care facility of a church, and we would just like watch play. The kids were anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4, so they're very young. They don't talk. So I just remembered having to feed them, having to have them take a nap, and then at the end of the day, when their parents picked them all up, we Lysoled everything. So I don't have any funny stories or anything, but I was adamant to find a job, and I was 16 or 17. And it was hard to find a job around that age because they typically want you to be 18 at the very least, and they want you to have like experience. But that church allowed me to have a job with them. So I was grateful for that. And after that, I worked at a movie theater that was just down the street from my house. And that was fun because I got to see whatever movies I wanted, making popcorn and all that stuff, and letting my friends in for free when they come and watch the movie. So that was fun. But yeah, I don't have any crazy. I mean, I think Kat and Meg both take the cake with those stories. But Meg, I can relate to your internship story because when I was in high school, at some point I wanted to be a fashion designer. So I was really adamant on looking for some kind of internship with one of these department stores. And the only one I could find actually, I just walked in and talked to the manager and asked to see if they would take a high school student as an intern. And this was at Mervyn's, and Mervyn's no longer exists. And it kind of the same attitude that Meg had. I was like, well, they all the manager did was give me a planogram, which gives you like a map of where the shirts go and how to fold them, and I would fold them. And at some point I'm like, this sucks. I'm not learning anything. I know how to fold clothes already, and I hate doing it. So I think I stayed for like a couple weeks, and I stopped. Eventually I stopped going to that because it wasn't really anything official. Like it was just something that I wanted as an experience for myself. So my last question for our segment today was, when we moved to the US, were there any boyfriends or girlfriends that you guys left behind? Anyone? And everybody's just smiling. I'm gonna put a gallery view.
No, I did. I was in a relationship when I left, and I was, in a relationship when I was here for maybe I don't remember for how long, but I guess distance took a toll, and yeah, we just grew apart.
So when I'm same with Joy. When I moved here to the United States, I was actually in a relationship. I was 16 or 17, and I wasn't even supposed to have a boyfriend. So when my dad came to fetch my sister and my ex-boyfriend then had enough balls to show up at the airport with flowers. And I'm like, then it was like sweet, but now I'm thinking about like, what do you want me to do with these flowers? Like take it all the way to America? Like, so like he brought like a bouquet of flowers, which was really sweet, and then and my dad teased me about that forever. And I think at some point my dad was like, so you're gonna carry that like all the way to America? So finally I just like threw everything away, and I kept like a little part of the flower that I ended up drying in one of the like books that I had. But we were together since maybe I was 15 and a half until maybe I was 18. So I moved to America when I was like 16-ish. No, maybe till 17, because then it only took about a year for me to realize, yeah, there's no way this was going to work unless he was going to move to America. And I think he was trying to, because he had some relatives somewhere in America, but that didn't work out. So eventually the letters stopped coming, and I stopped writing letters, and then it just was over. I don't even know how it was over, but at some point it did make sense. So did anyone leave some kind of love life behind when you guys moved to America?
I didn't have love life back then.
Meg said negative.
Right here, my love life is my cats right now. Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, I did. I had a boyfriend in college before I went here.
And so were you like, boy, bye?
It was weird because it was like I loved him, but at the same time it was like I don't think it's gonna work out because I am gonna be in the States and I am going to want to see other people.
Yeah.
Well, at least you knew that. I think a lot, and you guys were 20 plus ish. Like
21. It was 21. Yeah.
when you guys moved here. So yeah, I was still a little young one, naive, thinking, your first love will be your forever. I mean, some people, it works out for them that way, but not for me.
Yeah. Shout out to Monica Torre. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some.
Shout out to Tini Goles.
Oh. Wait, that's her first love? What? Really? I didn't know that.
First boyfriend.
Only boyfriend.
Wow.
One and only.
That's
dang. Okay. Now. Okay.
That's good. Well, there you guys have it. That was our sort of like a summary and highlights of like the first year. Well, first of all, like just sharing with you the experiences we had, just getting our visas and the struggle we had to, coming to America. And then once we came to America, we still had to struggle because, it was a different culture, just the English, the language barrier, and then looking for jobs and then getting your paperwork straightened out. So I guess that for anyone out there listening, it gets better, definitely gets better in time. And then make the right decisions the best way you can, and things will get better for sure. So any last words, you guys, before we say goodbye?
I think you said it well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of All Abroad Podcast, and we will see you on the next episode. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also find us on any of the podcast platforms that you have on your phones downloaded. So again, search for All Abroad Podcast. Until next time, bye.